for the Vandals of Idaho.
Welcome back, Tribe, from the North Brave and Bold, to the official, unofficial podcast of your Idaho Vandals and the Vandals affiliate, the Big Sky Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brian Marceau, and I'm joined today for another two-man crew, maybe a new dream team we have. Alex, best of all time boatman. Alex, how's it going?
It's been interesting. I think obviously our viewers know what we're going to be talking about today. Some news has been broken nationally about what could be going on. But yeah, everything's going all right. I think, Brian, it's everyone's favorite segment. It's the Mountaineer.
We're here for the Mountaineer Minute, aren't we?
Yeah, it's the Mountaineer Minute. All right. Bowl game, playing the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Guaranteed rate bowl in Phoenix, Arizona. I know all you FCSers want to make fun of all the different names all the time, but you know what? Our fans are jacked. December 28th, 7:15 p.m. Pacific kick. Sorry, doing a little mental math because it's in Arizona, which is on Mountain Time. That game. We're on Eastern. Our fans are pissed. It's at 10:15. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. Big game, though, tomorrow night in the Coliseum down the road. We host number 15 UConn, little Big East revival rematch rivalry. I don't know why I just came up with that, but our fans are pretty excited. Number 15 team in the country coming in. We're going to hopefully be having 14,000 people in the Coliseum tomorrow night. We'll see if we can definitely go catch a win here in Morgantown. So it's exciting times. I know it's everyone's favorite part on the podcast.
It's been my favorite part ever since. Once I learned to quit moaning about it, Alex, it became my favorite part.
You know why, Brian? Because it's about teams that win and semi-functioning athletic department. So it's a fun time.
Damn. Speaking of athletic departments, dude, everyone knows what we're here for, man. That we have today's episode, we're updating everyone on the coaching search. We have absolute developments that we need to talk about. I'm going to give the same preface we gave last time, which is when we broke the Petrino story, that was absolutely, we had it down 100%. This news is not precisely the same. All the info we're talking about is from completely reasonable sources that have come our way. And by the way, for the most part, this stuff is now being sent in my direction. But keep in mind, our sources are anonymous. They're going to stay that way. But this is the rumors we have, guys. They're credible, but this is not us reporting news. And Alex, the big thing we have to talk about today, someone other than us published something about Idaho coaching. Football Scoop, pretty dang early this morning, right around 7 a.m., between 6 and 7 a.m.
Right, perfect time for me. I was wide awake. I'm at work. Got Twitter up on one screen, my Salesforce up on the other. Comes across the timeline. I'm like, whoa, this is out there. Brent Pease, leader in the clubhouse.
Yep, that was published on footballscoop.com today, guys, by Zach Barnett. Brent Pease, born in Moscow, Idaho, is, according to Football Scoop, leading candidate take over the Vandal program. Right now, Brent Pease is assistant head coach at University of Montana. They've got some big stuff going on in Montana, other than Brent Pease related news too. But Brent Pease, also wide receivers coach. So first thing, Alex, I want to know your reaction when you saw this news, because when I saw this news, my first thought was, well, I mean, look, when we talked about Brent Pease on the show last week, he was a name we'd heard from multiple sources, and I started to get stuff from people on both sides of the Idaho-Montana border on this. So I can tell you, I saw Brent Pease as the reference leading candidate. That was one of the surprisingly, I was not shocked about the name. I was shocked that it came out, but as a name, I was not surprised whatsoever based off of the info we have. What was your reaction?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think about. It's hard to tell what's all right, and what is kind of making its way around in different circles at this point, right? The same story making its way around different circles. especially in Idaho, right? You never, like, everyone knows everyone in Idaho. So if one person has it, eventually everyone has it. Then when it makes it back around to that second person, that first person again from a different person. That's just how it works at Idaho. But like you said, I started to see Montana media, reference that they had that information today when Zach Barnett, the football scoop, broke it. So that kind of made me think, oh, okay, this is more serious. To see that, if it's coming from over there, right, saying that they have information on that, which they said today, then I started to think, well, maybe there's more traction to this than we even know, because we just hear, like, we probably have heard like 30 different names of people who are interested, and that just means they're interested people. That's all that means. Who knows if they've been interviewed? Who knows how far along it's been? It's just people who have thrown their ring potentially or thought about it. And Brian is right. Like, I don't really do a whole lot. I just react to it because I pay attention to football coaches and football. Like, that's just what I do. I pay attention to who these guys are. Some names that I think will get brought up tonight are people that I mentioned out of the blue, of people who I had identified earlier. And the fact that they could be interested is music to my ears, right? Like, that's just what I try to do. Pay attention to football and the landscape of where it's going. Brent Pease, though. Okay. Long history, born in Moscow, grew up in Mountain Home, played at Montana. So he knows Idaho, knows Montana. We covered that last time. Played in the NFL, played overseas, been a coach everywhere. Coordinated, been a position coach, been assistant head coach, but never been a head guy. Have heard, some good things about him. Some former players said he's a damn good coach, right? He might not be your best friend, but he's a really good coach from what I've heard on people's reactions to him. And I think you have too. I think our friends from Montana have kind of echoed that, that, hey, good coach, maybe not your best friend, but really good coach. So, we need a coach who can win football games. That's what we need, right? That's a thing number one. So if he can win football games, great. Like, if we talked about this last time, if this was a hire that was going to be made, we weren't going to be that upset about it. Like, we weren't going to be like over the moon excited. We weren't going to be like, this is a terrible hire. I think you and me have expressed, not even you and me, but just, we've talked about, like, Ian Shoemaker's name was thrown around a lot, right? If you were to put Ian Shoemaker and Brent Pease next to each other and removed, like, maybe the excitement on Shoemaker in the offense, like, you just put them in like a vacuum,
like a blind resume.
Blind resume. If you just didn't have anything associated, you would go, like, maybe because Shoemaker has head coaching experience here and maybe Pease like here, right? Like, for those of you who listened, I gave like a quarter-inch difference, like blind resume in a vacuum. He would be a good hire. So, I mean, like I said, I'm still taking everything with a grain of salt. The reports were he's the leader in the clubhouse, not just from Football Scoop, but from The Athletic as well. I saw a tweet from an Athletic reporter today, tweeted out the exact same thing, that he's been hearing Brent Pease as the leading candidate. Now, does that mean that he's going to be the guy? We're not sure. Until the university has that official press release, right? Like, I'm not sure of anything right now. Like, it's just very, I'm hoping it gets done. I want a guy hired. We have a recruiting class assigned next Wednesday. I get Brent Pease is supposed to coach a game Friday night. Not that far from me, about 3 hours away from me. Maybe I'll just drive down the road, Brian, and go see him Friday night, huh? Just be like, hey, coach, coming to Moscow, or what's the deal? But yeah, I know I've been talking a while. Let's see what happens. I'm still not sold that this is done.
So I'm going to echo the not sold this is done, but I know Brent Pease over the last week, if I were to compare volume of tips, volume of rumors that sound reasonable that have come my way, it's not close. The most that we've had are from Brent Pease, and they're the most credible ones. Brent Pease. I was pretty dang. Through this week, I've become more confident that would be a name that we get. Now, I'm going to say, after the news came from Football Scoop and then nothing happened, I'm going to pause, because that could be indication that, no, this isn't done. And like I said, until the university says it's done, it's not done. the info I got on Brent Pease, because of course we're getting volumes of tips like that. We're gonna try to learn about the guy. Few things. I'm probably a little bit higher on Brent Pease right now than you, based off what you described, Alex. I'd say if you did a blind resume comparison with Ian Shoemaker, and Ian Shoemaker's like our Mendoza line.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
If the hire's not Ian Shoemaker level, it's disappointing. But if it's above it, if it is Ian Shoemaker, hey, that's cool. There's reason to be excited.
Yeah.
If it's above it, great news. I'd say blind resume. The thing Ian Shoemaker has over Brent Pease is the head coaching experience.
Right.
If you look at depth of experience, if you look at prestige of positions and programs, it's not close. Brent Pease has a resume that would jump out above Shoemaker. And the stops I'm going to say, which isn't to say there's holes, because every single Big Sky coach we could possibly get, there's going to be a hole in their resume. Either they're early in their career, or they've been fired, or they haven't become a head coach, but they look promising. There's always going to be something with a Big Sky guy. I mean, Bobby Houck, great coach at Montana. He's at Montana because he got rightly fired at UNLV.
Don't forget that. Like, he was ran out of town in Vegas. Like, it was a failure.
Wasn't wrong. It was absolutely not wrong for him to be run out of town at UNLV. But he's a great Big Sky coach. He's one of the best of all time. The only thing he's missing is a championship.
You could argue like that. We could argue Petrino was more successful in FBS than FCS, right? Like, which is, some people go, how's that possible? Well, it just sometimes, guys, like, people work out at different levels than they do, right? You just circumstances are different from, school to school, division to division. Like, it just changes.
But jumping back to Brent Pease, I'm going to just run through a few stops on his resume, because we've talked about Sacramento State. They got a big get in Troy Taylor, Power 5 offensive coordinator at University of Utah, at the time that Sacramento State was able to grab him. And you hear Power 5 coordinator coming to Big Sky, that's a big deal. People are pretty floored when Bo Baldwin, who we might talk about later, we'll see, went from offensive coordinator at Cal, Power 5 program, to head coach at Cal Poly. That was thought as a big get for Cal Poly to get a Power 5 coordinator. Well, that's something we have. That's something Brent Pease has on his resume. Some big stops I'm going to run through real quick. Offensive coordinator at Montana from 96 to 98. Offensive coordinator at Northern Arizona from 99-2000. Power 5 offensive coordinator and assistant head coach at University of Kentucky. Yeah, you want to say Kentucky sucks at football, sure, but they're SEC. That's a big
Brian,
job.
Do you know who was at Kentucky at that time, playing quarterback?
The dearly departed Jared Lorenzen.
The hefty lefty, folks. Brent Pease called plays for the hefty lefty. Okay, that's college football pedigree.
Went from Kentucky Power 5 of offensive coordinator to Baylor Power 5 offensive coordinator. Some people are going to be touchy about this next run of jobs, and I'm going to tell you, just shut up. It's not a big deal. Brent Pease worked at Boise State with Chris Peterson from 2006 to 2011. Was a wide receivers coach for part of that, assistant head coach for part of it, offensive coordinator for 1 year, then becomes offensive coordinator at Power 5 Florida. Yeah, Florida didn't do great, but again, Power 5 SEC job, that's a big deal. And from there, a year at Washington, a couple years at UTEP, now at Montana. So done reading through the resume, but the whole point being, those are a lot of impressive stops. And yeah, he hasn't been a head coach, but good Lord, that's all across the country. That's a ton of different conferences. There's reason to believe a guy like that, one, he got those jobs because he knows something, and our program has needed competence for a decade. And two, maybe a pretty good recruiting footprint by having to work all over the country. So I am pretty high on a potential Brent Pease hire. He has been fired from some jobs, which, hey, reason to be cautious maybe. Everyone's going to have a demerit when you're coming to this job. So it's not, I don't mean to completely dismiss that. But when I heard, hey, Brent Pease might be a guy today, I thought that was great news, Alex.
Yeah. He's a Coach Peterson guy for a long time, which, I mean, when I was a young Vandal, I was not the biggest Coach Pete fan, but myself as a proud Washington Husky alum, love Coach Pete, right? He still is heavily associated with that program. He has his fingerprints all over it. Produced great teams and everywhere he stopped. So, yeah, I think it'd be a good hire. I do. I mean, like, I'm still in a wait and see mode, right? Before I get like too excited or too upset. I'm interested to see like more people's opinions as it comes out, right? Like we've seen some Montana fans go, "Oh no," like they're upset that could be taking him. Some are going like maybe potentially good riddance, right? Like I mean, everyone has an opinion on a guy, so it's tough. Former players are either going to be, "Hey, good coach." Some are going to be, "Had a bad experience, don't like the guy." It happens. So, if he is the guy, then I want it done, first thing tomorrow so he can recruit, right? If he is the guy, like I get he has a game Friday night. I get those are your guys. I get those are guys you recruited. You're on a national title potential run. Montana thinks they can make it that far. But like we're giving you your first head job. If this is true, if this report's true, right? We're giving you your first head job. Like we need you here. We need you out recruiting tomorrow. We need staff here 3 days from now, right? Like let's get this train rolling because college football like does not stop. So yeah, I would be okay. I would be not. I'm not going to say not happy. Not going to say okay. I'd be good with the hire. Let's just say that.
I'm fine saying it's not an A+, but there's a lot of reason to be excited about.
That's a B+ A- hire, right?
Yeah,
like you could do way worse. You're definitely above passing.
Last thing I'm going to say, Brent Pease, what I was told from people closer to the Montana program, not within the Montana program, but close to the Montana program, is Brent Pease, the person, definitely an old school hard ass. That's absolutely how he was described in different terms. Definitely competent. And in terms of player relationships, was told that if you play on Montana, you probably love Brent Pease. That doesn't mean everyone loves the guy. No coach has 100% approval rating. But I was told, even though he's a hard ass, the people who see the field like and respect Brent Pease. So honestly, to close the book on that part, I think we're both pretty similar. One, he's a big name. There's every reason to believe this guy could work out. He hasn't been a head coach, so minor asterisk. But I don't know.
Yeah. I know he's been credited too recently with some of the more recent innovation in Montana's offense. Right, we've seen Montana's offense change a little bit over the course of the year. He's been credited with some of that. He doesn't call their plays. They have an OC for that. So I'd be interested to see. We just got done with, Petrino, who called his own plays for 9 years, which does happen at every level of football. I would be interested to see if Pease says, all right, I'm calling my own plays or I'm bringing a guy in. I think that would be one of the first things I would maybe look to see. It's like, is this OC going to call plays? I would hope so. Like, I just generally think that works out better most of the time. Not everyone's Sean Payton, right? Yeah. Who can call their own plays and manage a game simultaneously. It's a pretty special thing to do. So I think those are things I would just look for, moving forward here.
Yeah. So I'm going to, and the other point that I failed to get to is that if he's our guy, I don't care about the rest of Montana's playoff run.
Well,
this game sure worked, right? I want him on.
Right.
I want him working for Idaho as quickly as we can.
Because
every extra day he's working for Montana, yes. He's not working for Idaho.
Right. And some Montana people have even said, that there's some feeling that if Houck was to leave the program tomorrow, Pease would be a strong candidate to take over for Houck, right? So let's just think about that, right?
Yeah.
So.
All right. So now again, this story broke and the athletic department said nothing. So what we're going to understand is until they announce it, it's not over. So until it's not over, there's other stuff for us to go over. I want to do a teeny bit of house cleaning, Alex, in particular relating to the first segment we did last week. First segment, we talked about whales, big names, but low likelihood probabilities. I think there's a couple names that we can cross off that list for sure at this point, Alex. The first one I'm going to talk about is we absolutely, before Petrino was fired, we were told that Jeff Choate was interested in the job. I was told Jeff Choate was interested in the job. It was a credible tip for us. Nothing's happened on that. As the search has gone on and we've had rumors trickle into us, Jeff Choate's name has not been brought up at all, except to say he's not there. I think we can cross Jeff Choate off the Wales list.
Yeah, Choate was not interested, but that's about as much as it's has been heard on that. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's done, and I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see Choate leave Texas maybe this year. Could be angling for a G5 job like Nevada just opened, right? Some things like that. So keep an eye out for things like that. I think over us.
Other name, we talked a little bit about it. We've heard more in relation to this job here than Choate. I've absolutely had people say, "Hey, Rolovich is interested. Rolovich has applied." My understanding is at this point, whether he's cooled or whether it's the athletic department not being interested in what a Rolovich would be at Idaho, and part of that is probably good, but an absolute risk to Dennis Erickson us. I'm under the impression that we can probably cross Rolovich off our list. He was a low likelihood probability anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine putting a 0% next to Nick Rolovich right now.
Yeah, I don't think Rolo shows up. I'm going to throw that name out also for Nevada. This is also becoming a Nevada segment. But yeah, I mean, he was the OC there for a few years, back in the day. And Nevada does require no in-state vaccines. They can do testing. So if you're Rolo and you want to get back in the game, right? Do you want to make half as much money and live in Moscow, or do you want to go back to, a successful Mountain West team and where you are familiar with and start there? So again, probably not going to see Rolo in Moscow.
Okay. So we also listed a ton of names last week. Here's my paradigm, Alex. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We have names that, again, that I've had a lot of info sent towards me that we're going to go over. These guys, it's multiple sourcing. So this is not hard like we had the Petrino thing down, but this is in the world of rumors. This is not officially confirmed by like the athletic department or anything. If we're not talking about them at this point, it's because they've kind of slid off the list. You fine with that as the paradigm?
Yeah, or I mean, maybe not even slid off the list, or even just there could be someone out there we have no idea who people don't know, right? Like
of course.
that's also possible. I mean, there could be out of the box hire that we are just not familiar with. So yeah, it could be that as well.
Yeah, we've got a lot of tips about people who are very likely interviewing that we feel good about. Unequivocally, we don't have every name that's interviewed. So you're absolutely right. This could be a Brent Vegan situation like in Montana State, where all the names that people are talking about, it's some dude who you're happy about but that no one had Brent Vegan on their wish list of Montana State. So jumping in, one name that I wanted to bring up that just coached in the FCS playoffs,
mm-hmm.
and you, Alex, were pretty high on this dude when we heard, hey, sounds like the guy may have interviewed. Offensive coordinator at South Dakota State and offensive line coach Jason Eck, Alex.
Yeah. I mean, this was a name that post you and Dallas getting off the Sunday after Petrino, era was over. This is a name I just threw out there, like with I had nothing. I'm just going off of guys I would maybe like to see targeted. So the fact that I am hearing that, like, it could like there is a possibility, whether it's 1%, whether it's 10%, I'm happy. So Jason Eck, for those of you unfamiliar, he is the current OC and O-line coach at South Dakota State. He did have a stop in Moscow as the tight end coach, I believe 04 to 06. And Eric's years. He was named FCS Assistant of the Year in 2019. So the FCS Bryles Award, which is the Bryles Award is the top assistant in college football for FBS. Those guys all go get head jobs eventually, or really hot commodities, right? So this guy won the FCS version of this 2 years ago, pre-COVID. I would be extremely happy with this hire. Younger guy, has a tiny connection to Idaho, but not much to like have a preconceived, idea of where we just were at. And South Dakota State has been the most successful FCS teams in the whole country over the last 15, 20 years, Brian. So like anytime you can get someone of that pedigree to Moscow, I'd be happy. Also, was it Montana State, right, for like a brief little while? Am I incorrect?
Yeah, 2015.
2015.
Jason Eck was the running. Oh man, again, now we're producing in public.
Run game coordinator.
Yeah, thanks for not being on the show, Dallas Hammer, so that like the two worst tech guys for this platform can run it. So send hate mail, guys, to Dallas Hammer. Offensive line coach at Montana State in 2015, according to his bio on GoJax.com. That'd be the last year that Rob Ash was head coach of Montana State, just before Jeff Choate took over in 2016.
Mm-hmm. Another piece on him, he played at Wisconsin. Okay? Played under Barry Alvarez. Let's not forget where our AD spent most of her time at Wisconsin, working under Barry Alvarez. I'm like, I wouldn't be shocked, like just wouldn't be surprised if, Terry has asked Barry for any advice on this. That would just make sense. Like that's where my mind goes as someone who works in administration. You lean on people like that who know. So like it could be really well possible. Like this is a name I'd be super excited about, guys. And would be extremely happy to see in Moscow.
Yeah, Jason Eck, I did some digging on him, talking to people with South Dakota State, both beat reporters and just people who have shows like ours. And the broad consensus on Jason Eck is, first, he's creative offensively. When he first got to South Dakota State as their offensive coordinator, they were a team that passed for around – they would gain over around 400-plus yards per game, passed a ton. Their talent changed, particularly heading into the pandemic season. And this season, South Dakota State's had a rush-based attack, which the point being, he's a guy who's open to doing whatever the heck works for his talent, which is a huge, huge net plus to me in a potential candidate, which is to say he's not necessarily a system guy. His system is winning games, and South Dakota State has been only good while Jason Eck has been involved. He's also thought of as a culture guy. As in, he is really well liked not only within the program, but in the greater South Dakota State like alumni base and the community as well. He's a well respected guy based off the people we talked to. Minor downside, he's considered potentially a short term hire because it's understood that he has ambitions to be a head coach, and Idaho would be a head coach, but hasn't been at South Dakota State for like 1,000 years, and he's moved around positions. So. Being here for a couple of years is on the table. But, of course, many people who might get the Idaho job, that's a correct description of them if they do well at Idaho. And also he can be a little bit too cute with play calling. You absolutely saw that with how South Dakota State closed out their playoff game against Sacramento, where we had the quarterback pretending to be flipping out against the sideline and they did direct snap to the running back. Don't know if the quarterback thing helped. They still got the first down. I'm going to guess they would have got the first down anyway. But those are the cons. Broadly speaking, I can tell you if we announce Jason Eck, I'm pretty damn happy, Alex. What about you?
Yeah, I'm ecstatic. Like, again, you put his resume in a vacuum with Pease and Shoemaker, right? This definitely goes above our Mendoza line of Shoemaker, in my opinion. That's just my anytime you see a resume of this FCS assistant coach of the year. Creative, calls plays younger-ish. By that, I'm saying he's still in his early 40s. Yeah, it would be in his early 40s, mid 40s, versus Peace, who's 57. But you're right, he could try to leave. But I think not everyone's going to be in a Montana situation where your coach never leaves, guys. That's a rare thing to happen at this level. It's more likely to happen if we're successful. Choate-esque things happen, right? Get successful for a few years, and bam, you're a OC at Washington. Just to throw that out there, or you're
the Big Skies had
Nevada.
The Big Skies had weird situations with that because Jay Hill has been successful at Weaver State for a while, but it's because his name has been linked to 1,000 jobs. But it's only because he wants Utah. Yeah, he looks like he's holding out, which by the way might backfire. But that's just about your point, Alex. That most Big Sky hires, if they're doing well, they're not going to be here forever. So, I mean, it requires special situations, right? Absolutely. Who knows how long Aaron Best will be in Cheney? You never know who's going to come calling, right? I'd call Aaron Best a special situation. He's Cheney for life. But your point stands. You need a weird situation to presume it'll be fair. Like Bobby Howe coming back to Montana. He's older. He left a dream job. Yeah, even he left once and tried it out. Didn't work. Had to come back. So I mean, it can happen. Yeah. And other thing with Jason Eck, he doesn't have head coaching experience, which that would put him in the Peace box. So I don't know. Either of those two names I'm excited. I'm absolutely excited about. Based off, some people we talked to, some people might be higher on Jason Eck than Brent Pease. Honestly, like in my head, there's a world where I'm more excited about Jason Eck. Doesn't mean he's better. But if you do a blind resume, again, it's going to be tough to have a better looking blind resume without head coaching experience than Brent Pease. Right. So I don't want to fetishize that too much because Jason Eck's been great everywhere. Like you said, assistant head coach of the year. That means something.
Yeah.
But either of these two guys, I think the jury's in. Either of these two guys were game to.
I think this name is more exciting, if that makes sense, right? Like Pease is like solid, you're good job. This is like, ooh, what could happen here? Like that's how I kind of maybe like look at it or approach it.
Yeah, I kind of think of Brent Pease at this point of like his style would be derivative of Bobby Hauck in terms of culture, in terms of being a hard ass, being about challenging players for sure. But obviously that works for Montana. People still love Bobby Hauck. Even Bobby Hauck's notorious hard ass. People still love Bobby Hauck. So doesn't mean that people wouldn't love Brent Pease here. And now, but also Paul Petrino is known as a hard ass and didn't work out.
It works, but it works sometimes though. I mean, it can work. You got to do it the right way. Trust me.
Exactly. Well,
it can work.
Okay, the point I'm going to bring up before we jump to other coaches, I think you're probably the same as me. When you're talking about a coach in the abstract, like style points can move you one way or another. Like being a player's coach or being a hard ass, whatever. It works no matter. There's successful old school hard coaches. There's successful players coaches. I don't really care about the aesthetic component right now. I care about if the guy can get wins. I believe Jason Eck or Brent Pease, it's reasonable to think they can get us wins.
Yeah.
You want to lead off the next one? It's a guy that you when you had that first talk with Chris, a guy in Northern California that you were pretty stoked. You were pretty stoked about. I got some reasonable information, did some digging with.
Okay, all right. I think I know where you're leading with this.
Did talk to some Sacramento State beat reporters.
Okay. I think you're going with this one. I mean, obviously, I haven't heard anything because I'm not connected the way you are with reporters out elsewhere. But if this is true, Andy Thompson's the name I think you're about to throw me, Brian, and that's a name I think Vandal fans could also be very excited about. That's a name, again, back to the same episode as I talked to Eck. This is a name I grabbed out of thin air. Nope, just said, I think this could be a good job. And this basically goes off of my thought on this is Sac State has been the most successful team in the Big Sky the last 2 full seasons, right? I'm going to remove 2020 from your mindset because it did happen, but we didn't have the full Big Sky. We didn't play a full schedule. It was a weird time. The last 2 full seasons, no team has been better than Sacramento State. Sorry, Chris Hammond. I hate to break that to you. Now, when you hear Troy Taylor talk, the head coach at Sac State, he talks about that. He talks about that he leaves the defense to Andy Thompson. Like he's like, I coach the offense. Andy Thompson coaches the defense. He just makes the decisions at the end of the day. Okay, so that to me screams alarm bells. Like, hey, this is a guy who does talk quite a bit. This guy who does do some good things here. And 1 second. Sorry, I was just reading something right here.
Yeah, well, you're getting there. Essentially, what Troy Taylor has said is even though Andy Thompson doesn't have head coaching experience, he's damn well a co-head coach at Sacramento State.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that'd probably be a great title for him as co-head coach. That's a name that I see and goes, oh, I got pretty excited about. Like that'd be a good hire. So Andy Thompson played at Montana, but he's from Walla Walla. So again, more of like a Brent Pease-esque type of deal where from the area, played at Montana. He didn't go everywhere. He coached in Montana for a while. He was at NAU for a while as a DC. So he's been the Big Sky. He knows the Big Sky. Younger-ish guy in his mid-40s, not Pease, who's 57. He's more like a Eck or a Shoemaker, right? So that's exactly where I'd be happy with Thompson if that's true. I mean, like again, whether that's 1%, whether that's 20, 30, if that's true about Thompson, we could do a lot worse, Vandal fans. Trust me. He passes my Mendoza line. Plus, I think I would love a defensive guy. In my personal opinion, the best head coaches of all times are defensive guys. So I go to that well in my opinion.
Yeah, Andy Thompson, he has a weird background in that he's been a well-respected big coach in the Big Sky for about 16 years. Coached at Northern Arizona for 13 years. Defense coordinator, good part of that. I'm going to throw a minor, not important fact that is not on some of his bios. One of the guys who has shown the best judgment I have ever seen coaching, and the reason why, Alex, is when he left Northern Arizona, he signed at Southern Utah for 9 seconds or so, and then jumped to Sac State. You don't really find that anywhere, like on bios or articles about him. What exists is an old press release from Southern Utah that they snagged Andy Thompson in 2018, but no, or 2019, but no, he didn't stay there at all. He was there for like 4 seconds and then went to Sacramento State. Sacramento State, of course, we talk about Troy Taylor's timeline, but Andy Thompson is a fine guy to put in there too. They've been great defensively. In particular, in 2019, they were probably the second best defense in the league when Sacramento State had their first playoff, time in the playoffs. They've lost the first round both times in the playoffs. But Andy Thompson, another name to get excited about. It's kind of weird. He's been an assistant in the Big Sky for 16 years or so and hasn't gotten a head job. I guarantee there's a ton of places that are going to view him as a head guy. I also guarantee, because Troy Taylor is going to be a name that people are looking at for jobs like Nevada. He's already rumored. Troy Taylor's already rumored to be a Fresno State guy. Andy Thompson.
His name did pop up. His name did pop up in an athletic article, right? Man, this is becoming quite a Nevada coaching search as well. Some history.
You're welcome, Wolfpack.
Yeah. I could do your job for you, Nevada. Anyway, I saw his name. His name was like in the bottom of the list potentially. And those are just names that could appear in the search. The Athletic types up for every 30 or 28 FBS jobs that have opened this year, right? So that'd be a smart hire by Nevada. I mean, Sacramento's like what, 2-ish hours from Reno? I don't know my times there, but yeah, I mean, whether that's him going with Troy to Nevada, whether that's Andy Thompson's name's popping up at Sac State as an internal promotion, I think we would be smart to get on that if he is interested, and if we're interested. I think that'd be a smart choice.
Now, the asterisk here too, Alex, is this would be if Andy Thompson's a guy, we probably got to move fast, because if Troy Taylor gets another job, Andy Thompson's probably coming along with him, and Troy Taylor is going to.
We're getting promoted to head at SAC.
Yep. Troy Taylor is absolutely going to be the new Jay Hill of any Western job. Troy Taylor is going to be a name attached to it. I don't know if he'll actually leave. In talking with Sacramento reporters, Troy Taylor's not thought of as a job jumper. He's lived in the Sacramento area for the majority of his life. He graduated from high school around Sacramento, went to college at Cal. He coached high school in Sacramento. Now he's coaching at Sacramento State. So Troy Taylor he's kind of universally known as a little bit of a different guy. And the only reason why that matters is if Andy Thompson's a guy for us, we're concerned about Troy Taylor getting a job. And taking Andy Thompson, he'd probably have to be the right job. But before we move to the next guy, I feel I should address what tonally people are going to notice. We're pretty excited about all the names we're going to list. Just every name that we're going to come to. I think there's reason to be pretty stoked about, like we've been through Brent Pease, Jason Eck, Andy Thompson. We have another name that, I'd heard both ways, yes, no, and then felt like we got the tip that, pushed it over as a guy who is absolutely a candidate for this job. Joel Thomas, running back coach for the New Orleans Saints, which I can tell you, he was one of our whales last week that we said, hey, probably not. And we said that because we had the best info we had was that Joel Thomas, as much as we might want him, he played at Idaho, all-time leading rusher in program history. We just been told, he's not a guy who'll take the job. But Alex, this is something you've brought up. People will do surprising things for the school they graduated from.
Yeah. Brian, I have like no words to describe my potential excitement if this is true, right? Like, you know, you've been hearing more on this than I have. This is all pretty fresh to me. I would be so happy, like so unbelievably happy if Joel Thomas was the next head coach at Idaho. Guys, like that was like, not to age him or myself, that was like a personal like hero of mine as a kid. Like the 98 Idaho, humanitarian bowl team is like that highlight video, right? That is out there on Twitter from Tubbs, by the way. I have a DVD copy. I had a VHS copy that I burned out. I could recite word for word. Joel Thomas was like a hero, right? And then when I remember as a kid, when he came back as the co-OC running back coach, I want to say like 03-ish, around that time, 03, 04. I remember when I was a kid, I still remember this to my dad. He's like, I don't only ever come back to Idaho to be a head guy, right? So I've always kept that in my mind. And it was pretty widely reported that he did interview in 2013 when Paul was hired. It been fall of 2012 into fall of 2012 that, he was interviewed. He was a running back coach at a time at Arkansas, right? Since then, he has moved on to the New Orleans Saints. Been there for quite a few years. He was stuck with Sean Payton for a long time. He'll never call the plays there because Sean Payton calls his own plays. But he's Alvin Kamara's running back coach. He's Mark Ingram's running back coach. Has been for a long time. This is a name that would get, people might go, can he recruit? How would that work? He's been in the NFL for a while. He was in college for most of his career up until his move to the Saints in a few years ago. He was all of his career in college. He knows how to recruit. That's not a problem. Every kid would be like, yeah, this was Alvin Kamara's running back coach. Like, that's that's instantaneous. Like, that's a name those kids will know, right? He's Idaho's all-time leading rusher. Idaho has never had a minority head coach as well. Joel would be the first, if it's true. I think that would be, fantastic. Trust me. And you shouldn't hire off of that, but like that's something for a program that where, around half of our kids, are not white. Like that's the role model to look up to, and that's massive, right?
You're saying that, again, Idaho's not going to hire based off a demographic checklist, but it would be a big deal for the development of University of Idaho athletics to have this happen, because we're getting candidates who fit the description and want to come to Idaho.
Yeah, it's just great. And also, I think boosters and fans would be really happy. Like, that's a name that would generate a lot of excitement. You might get more dollars back in, and you might see more fans in the dome. Like, everyone wants to kind of harken back to older Big Sky days. He was around for the tail end of that. And then he was those initial FBS days when we were kicking ass in the Big West. So those people who remember those days of the 80s, they'll remember Joel Thomas in the 90s, because like that was the guy. He was the guy. He is the guy. In my opinion, his number 1 should be retired up in the dome next to number 77 and probably a 13, in my opinion, as well. But again, I could ramble on about Joel Thomas all day, because this is a name that just gets me juiced up. I have no clue how true this is or what. If he isn't interested, I will always be a fan. If he is, Brian, I'm driving my ass back to Moscow tomorrow if it's coming out. So anyway.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about our sourcing on him being interested.
That's good to hear. That's
I feel
that's good
pretty
to hear.
good about our sourcing on him having interviewed for the job.
That's great. It's even better to hear, Brian.
What I'm going to say with Joel Thomas is 2 facets. One, all the other guys we've talked about previously, we've talked resume for the most part. And look, we've talked Joel Thomas' resume too. He has a good resume. The reason you, Alex, jumped to a different point, which is fan excitement, is there's going to be excitement no matter what around whoever the head coach is. Joel Thomas, based off the guys we talked about, would be a different level, and he wouldn't really have to try. That doesn't mean he wouldn't be the kind of guy who'd work to engage the fan base, and that absolutely matters for Idaho. Winning matters first, but getting more people into the dome, getting more people donate to the VSF, getting more people just energetic about the next step of
Oh,
Vandal
man.
athletics. All of that absolutely
Yes.
matters. And
Yes. And being a college football coach is so much more than just winning X's and O's, right? Like that's why some guys do like NFL more, because it's down to, it's like football in its purest form. Being a college football coach, you have to go glad hand person A while talking to recruit B, while talking to academic counselor C, that player D is getting grade, B to B, right? Like it's just, there's a lot more moving parts, and it's you have to be on top of it 24/7 nonstop. So it is different. And like, that's why being a head coach is so much more than just winning games. It's making sure everything else is running around you well. And part of that is booster and fan excitement. And like, I don't think there's anyone on this list from the beginning of this hot search that would bring more fan excitement. You could maybe argue Scott Linehan if people were saying he was interested. Like, but this is like 1A and 1B, in my opinion, of like of names that would go like boom for Vandal fans. I love Joel Thomas. Like pay him as much money as we can. Like, let's get him to Moscow. Like, I don't care. Like, I want him in town tomorrow.
So we have a couple more names to touch on, but I think
Sorry, I'm too fired up.
I think Alex just gave his clubhouse leader.
Well, it's not. It's like, this is like who I want to see personally.
That's what I mean. I apologize.
Like,
I don't mean sum of evidence. I mean, I think if you were to power rank your guys, you just told us who your number one guys.
And I think even like, I'll say this internally, like when this whole thing was happening, like I think Chris would ask us like, all right, guys, rank your 1 through 5. I always had a tough time ranking my 1 through 5 of guys I would like to see, right? Except one has always been Joel Thomas.
The only thing I have to add with Joel is, and I'm glad you brought up the enthusiasm, because every coach, look, they're going to have boxes they check and boxes they don't check. For example, Brent Pease, he has a diverse experience checklist that's pretty damn thorough in terms of position, in terms of across the country. We don't know what level Brent Pease is going to engage with the fan base, and what level he's going to, bring extra butts in the dome because he's Brent Pease. Joel Thomas, I'm fine saying he doesn't have coordinator type experience at the same level as a guy like Brent Pease, but there's some excitement that he'd bring to the team. There's reason to believe there might be a recruiting bump because of people who might not typically think of Vandal football would hear Joel Thomas and say, "Oh, I want to play for that guy." So there's kind of an intangible part to Joel Thomas that I think people should be stoked about, and I think it'd be real if he's one of our guys. Before we close out, we do have two kind of late names that came to us, but unclear if these guys have interviewed. Everyone else we've talked about, the tip we have is not that they're interested. The tip we have is that they've interviewed, or I have. I apologize, guys. The reason I say I is just because when we've written other stuff, it relates to publishing from Tubs of the Club. Tips I've got from the other guys that they've interviewed. These are tips that these guys are interested late in the game. Don't know if they're going to be interviewed. They may be. First one is Jason McKendu. Alex, you're a little bit familiar with McKendu, correct?
Yeah, I've looked him up because I think I think Chris asked for a Ask Tubbs when we were talking a couple episodes ago of names, people would maybe like to see. And this name was brought up by someone on Twitter's, and I forget who commented it. So I then looked into him. So Brian, you can give the rundown here on is it McKendu or McIndoe? I never know with these pronunciations.
Forget me. We'll do both McIndoe and McKendu. Right. McIndoe is probably correct. Jason McIndoe, current tight ends coach for Oklahoma State. That's Power 5, Oklahoma State. He played college football at Washington State, so Palouse is not new to him. Played professionally for the Seattle Seahawks for a year. His coaching experience is Lake Washington High. He jumped from Lake Washington High School as the offensive line coach to Mount Spokane High School as the offensive line coach to Montana State as the offensive line coach up to now Oklahoma State tight ends coach. He's a little bit on the young-ish side at 46. But, I look at
same age range as Eck, Joel Thomas, and Andy Thompson. All in that same graduated late 90s age range.
I see that name. I understand people getting excited. There's a Northwest connection. The Power 5 name right now at Oklahoma State is really the big driver, I'd say, of McKendoo, because he certainly, if you do blind resume right now, I don't know if I'd put him above the Ian Shoemaker Mendoza line, as he hasn't been he hasn't been as high as a coordinator coach anywhere. Again, it doesn't mean it wouldn't work, but of the resumes we have, this is not the deepest.
No, yeah. His boss, current OC at Oklahoma State, Vandal legend Casey Dunn, right? People are wondering if Casey Dunn's name's interested. Nothing on that ever. Oklahoma State's defense coordinator actually just left today also for Ohio State. So it shows you where that program's at. It's a top tier, top 20 job probably right now in the country is that program. It's an okay name. Like, I'm not like I would take Pease over him, right? And that's nothing against, Jason, McIndoe here. I think it'd be more interesting. I'd like to see maybe more as a coordinator first. Like, hey, maybe he wants to come. I don't know what he's making as, tight ends coach at Oklahoma State. It's hard to guess. I don't know if he would be interested in being a coordinator in an FCS team. I'd rather maybe bring him back as a coordinator, right, to give him the ad experience. But yeah, tough to gauge. That this is like the second time I've ever looked at his information is right now. So
yeah, the more I think about it, I think this is an incredibly important hire for Idaho athletics, yes. Idaho football. And I'd be pretty scared if this is the place we land on based off the other guys we talked about. I'm going to be excited for the guy. I'm going to support the guy. Clean slate, no matter what. Hey, you're a new coach. It's a new era. Of the guys we've listed, this would be the most concerning hires so far. Second last name, I've got a surprise whale to talk about when we close out. But before that, Tim Drevno, another name I've been given is interested. Tim Drevno, current offensive analyst at UCLA, pretty diverse background in terms of coaching. He's coached at Fullerton, was at Montana State from 93 to 97, tight end coach, then running back coach. UNLV, San Jose State, Idaho, offensive line coach here from 2000, 2002. He has coordinator experience at San Diego. That
was when Harbaugh was there.
Yeah, Harbaugh guy, man.
That was Harbaugh.
San Diego from 03 to 06. He's a coordinator. He was also most recently a coordinator from 2015 to 2017 at Michigan. Harbaugh guy. I think that's Harbaugh time from 2015 to 2017, offensive coordinator, offensive line coach. And again, went from there to USC for a couple of years as offensive line coach, now as an analyst at UCLA. I just talked myself into that guy, into Drevno by walking through his resume, Alex.
I think, he definitely, would pass my Mendoza line of sorry, I'm just looking more into him here. Yeah.
So, Power 5 coordinator in Michigan, like that.
So again, pretty much
Troy Taylor would be the reference point.
So pretty much he was coming up through the ranks, got to Idaho as the O-line coach under Cable. Those were Cable's first 3 years. Right. And then he literally is with John Harbaugh from 03 all the way until 17. Except for 1 year at USC in 2014. I think that was the year Harbaugh took off too. Huh?
Does John Harbaugh mean Jim Harbaugh?
Oh, sorry. Jim Harbaugh. My fault. Yeah. I don't know why. I should know that. I have friends who are Ravens fans and they would murder me for that. Even though I'm a Steelers fan. So he really was with Jim Harbaugh for, 03 to 17. I think 2014 was the only year Jim Harbaugh was out of coaching. He left the Niners for a year, I think took a year off, and then came back at Michigan. So that was the only year he wasn't with Jim Harbaugh. So if you guys are okay with, one of Jim Harbaugh's right-hand guys up until 2017, and it looks like because he had to move on from him. I'm just looking at Michigan's records real quick. So 10-3. Then he went 8-5 in 2017. That's when calls started being kind of made for his job a little bit. I think Drevno got moved on from, right? And just to make everyone well aware of who the current Michigan OC is, it's Josh Gaddis, who just won the Browse Award today, which, like I mentioned earlier, is a top assistant coach in FBS football. So that's who replaced him. Can't really hate on that. I would be okay with Tim Drevno. That'd be such an interesting hire. Works for Chip Kelly right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm game. Like, if this guy's interested, like, interview him. Let's see where it goes. And I think one thing real quick, Brian, like, I think I referenced this maybe in my show with Chris. Like, resumes are one thing. We have no idea what these guys are saying in interviews, right? You don't know, like, they could be coming prepared with their 20-point plan on how they're going to, get out of ball from here to here. What are their steps? How they're going to do it? Their practice plans, right? Like, those are the type of interviews you want to have. The guys, like someone whose resume might be the best, might have a crap interview, and someone like Jason McIndoe could have a killer interview. I'm not saying he's even interviewed, right? Like, because someone's resume isn't the sexiest doesn't necessarily mean doesn't mean they're dead from the job. They could crush their interview, right? Folks, we've all been there. It's just like a real job. Person A might have a better resume, your person B, but your interview was killer and theirs sucked. So you get the job, right? Like, that's all part of the equation. So we can only grade them off of resumes because that's what we know, right? We don't know how they interview. So just keep that in mind when these hires are made.
Another factor too is we know this because we've heard Terry say it 1,000 times while I have been talking about the dumpster fire our basketball hire has been. Terry talks about culture all the time as being something that's important for her with the hire, not just winning games. Obviously, we're hiring to win games, but as we have heard her talk about both Paul when he was fired and also just keeping Zach on, she really does care about people building the kind of culture that is, it is helping young men mature into contributing adults. It is trying to, we want to win, but we want to have a program that all Vandals can be proud of. And I mean all Vandals, not allvandals.com necessarily, which we will be if we win games. But that's something that's hard to quantify right now when you're looking at resumes, because like you said, I'm just inventing this. I don't know how Drevno sells, Tim Drevno, in terms of sculpting a culture, but hey, maybe it's great, maybe it's not. I don't know, but you can understand a world where, hey, maybe Joel Thomas is able to kind of transcend the resume. That again, now clearly, I think you'd say Drevno has some collegiate experience that you'd put above what a guy like Joel Thomas has. But Joel Thomas has some intangible qualities that don't show up on a Wikipedia page or on a coaching bio page that might matter in a way that someone else can't. Last coach we have to get to before we're going to close it out, and I think when we close it out, I'm at least going to give my quote unquote power ranking, something like that. Alex, there's a name. I'm going to label this as a low probability outcome, guys. There's a name that just won't die. We early on had tips of interest. Then we thought it was done. I was ready a couple days ago to say, hey, just not going to happen. It's low probability outcome anyway. And now we have news that maybe that's not the case. Hashtag damaged goods, Bo Baldwin. Again, low likelihood outcome, guys. I want to throw that in brackets. This name will not go away. Boatman, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think up until you pretty much said this right now, like, I kind of was on the assumption that he was done and dusted, right? Like, that's a name that I think we had brought up a couple weeks ago or last week or whatever this was. Who knows? This job has been open for 16, 17 days, but it feels like it's been open for a year at this point. Long 17 days here somehow. This is a name that you definitely pass your Mendoza line, right? Like, this is a name, if he wants the job, guys, if he does actually want the job, like, it's hard as a massive Joel Thomas lover. It's hard for me to even put Joel Thomas above him, right? That's just hard for me to do because of probably not too many better, well resumed candidates out there. Again, it would come down to the interview, right? But boy, you're trying to win Big Skies and go to playoffs. There is not many better candidates out there than that man you just mentioned right there, Brian.
I've got to give a shout out to Chris Hammond really quick, who is not on the show, obviously, in that when we talk about hashtag damaged goods, Chris will always bring up, Cal Poly, Brian, they're looking pretty good, aren't they? Cal Poly, since Bill Baldwin took over, they are 2-12 in a year and a redshirt year. I'm going to call their springtime a redshirt year for now and forever, because they only played 3 games. That doesn't count against your eligibility.
No, it doesn't count against eligibility.
The thing I'm going to point to is hey, again, everyone's going to have blemishes heading into a job like this potentially. We just talked about Joel Thomas we're excited about, but he doesn't have coordinator experience. I mean, he was co-coordinator at Idaho, but he doesn't have sole coordinator experience. Look, Bo Baldwin's blemish is, I think Cal Poly might be more ambitious a task of turning into a spread offense kind of team than maybe Bo Baldwin thought, or maybe anyone thought with their admission standards. That Idaho's a great school, but they don't have the Cal Poly issue to compete with. And we talked about him last time, but just to run through the cliff notes, Bo Baldwin's probably the most successful Big Sky coach in the last 30 years.
Sorry, Montana fans.
He was
Bobby Houck.
Well, look, I mean, he was named head coach in 2018 after 1 year being a head coach at Central Washington, where he played. He didn't play in 2017. He graduated from Central Washington, played football there. Central Washington's 10-3 in his 1 year, and they make the Division II quarterfinal at Eastern. From 2018 to 2016, Eastern misses the playoffs 3 times. His worst record was 6-5. Other than that, they make the playoffs 6 out of 9 years. One time they don't make it out of the first round. Every other time they have 1 quarterfinal, 3 semifinal appearances, and a championship. Again, low likelihood outcome, guys. But to me, if hashtag damaged goods, good God, if that can be real, and it will have nothing to do with mine and Dallas's hashtag damaged goods campaign, but we'll pretend it did for sure. If we get a press conference where Bo Baldwin's hired, we're going to definitely talk that up. But name won't go away, Alex. So until there's someone announced, it's not done, apparently.
Yeah, that was news to me. I mean, a lot of this is news to me. And I think there was talk about us commenting on the Brent Pease news. Again, that was national news from the Football Scoop and the Athletic, right? That's not us saying anything. That's literally national. I'm still skeptical that that's the guy. I just don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen. I am just waiting with bated breath every day that I am going to see a Football Scoop with this is the guy. Because I love this stuff this time of year. This is it's people's lives, right? But man, from afar, it's interesting to watch. Whether it's me watching what's going on in any other school in the FBS. My Twitter feed and my Football Scoop feed is always updated because I'm always looking. So that when I saw that break today, that was shocking to me. I mean, we've heard people interested. We've heard so-and-so could, maybe interviewed, but that's it. That's extreme. That's as much as has been said. So when that comes out that this guy was the leading candidate, I'm just waiting to see. I just don't until I see that Idaho football Twitter account press release. I got notifications on right now, waiting for that press release because who knows when it's going to happen. I'm just waiting with bated breath, Brian.
So to close it out, let's be real quick. Preface. This is gut. This is your gut. Give me I want 2 answers. One, just top 3 of let's say your dream of the guys we've talked about, followed up with what does your gut say is most likely top 3?
It's hard for me to even say most likely because I just have zero clue. And someone just commented, Ballgame tweeted 18 minutes ago, he's hearing it's 100% not Brent Pease, right? Ballgame tweeted that 20. Thank you, Chris Riddle-Moser, for that. I literally looked at my phone, pulled it up. There's Ballgame saying that right now that it's hearing it's person, not Pease. Ryan Phillips tweeted at Tubbs saying not Brent Pease. Up until that moment, it would have been I think I'm going to go off what the national media is saying. I'm going to go with Brent Pease. Number one for me is I would love Joel Thomas. Like that's me, the Vandal fan. That's me, the kid who grew up on Vandal football. That's a hero of mine. So that's number one. I think that after that, I would say Andy Thompson, then Eck. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I think I would say Thomas, Thompson, Eck is what I would like to see. Like that's how I would rate it. Zero clue though of what's most likely, because up until while we're recording, like this is producing live, right? Like it was Football Scoop and The Athletic are saying Brent Pease is the leader from multiple sources. This is Montana media saying the same thing, confirming those reports. It's the name that you had heard the most, and now all of a sudden it's coming out that it's not happening. It's done. It's 100% not him. So again, I'm clueless. I think I'm befuddled at what's happening. If it's Joel Thomas, fingers crossed, folks.
Yeah, the pipe dream 3 for me is, Damaged Goods Bo Baldwin is definitely at the top, and doing the rest is tough because I actually do like just about all the candidates. But I'll say Joel Thomas would certainly be fun in a way that is different from the other groups, so he's going to be in there. And then, Andy Thompson is a guy that you and Chris definitely. I was like always high on him, but you and Chris definitely sold me on. I'm going to now shift to, let's say, just some of info that I'm aware of and gut. And I'm not saying any. I can't tell you who the dude's going to be for sure. This is not breaking news whatsoever. I will say I absolutely accept what we just saw from Ball Game, what we saw from Ryan Phillips. Brent Pease is, even though it was reported in Football Scoop, Brent Pease is not the guy. I will say at this point, the info that's been given to us, Brent Pease is easily the one who's been referenced the most. So I'm going to throw, in terms of gut of, is there an actual chance? I'd say there's definitely a chance Brent Pease could be the guy. Does that mean he will be? Of course it doesn't. Any of the guys, of course, there's a chance it's not. But we've been given credible information that Brent Pease interviewed, and we have credible information. If you interview, there's a chance you're the guy. So I'm going to throw Brent Pease, and then I'm going to say, honestly, just the top 3 that we went over, the first 3 went over, not top 3, of Jason Eck, Andy Thompson as quote unquote gut guys. But honestly, no, you're right. I feel confident in talking about the guys that have interest in position or interview that we've talked about. But once Football Scoop published and nothing really happened, now a lot more information came out today. Honestly, it was an avalanche of info that came out after the Football Scoop. And I woke up this morning, like I said, not floored at all to see the Brent Pease article from Football Scoop. Feels like things are changing right now. And I think I'm fine closing the book at that level, Alex. We've talked about a good amount of guys I think people should be interested in. You have anything else you want to add before we call it a day?
No one knows. I think the most that anyone knows is that maybe it's been whittled down from 35, 40, 50 people down to maybe like 10, right? I think that's kind of maybe like 10. I think we've named about 5 or 6 names, but but I think that's all we really have. I just be on the lookout, right? Turn on your Twitter notifications, follow the Football Scoop, follow other people. Like those are credible people, and this is their industry, so they will hear things way more than any one of us could ever, right? Like because they hear from agents, they hear from other things like that. They get tips from everywhere. Whoever it is, guys, like I think if it's one of these guys, great. We pretty much were happy with every name that we've heard so far in today's show. But like we said earlier, we could be missing this completely because no one knows crap. So just keep a lookout for it. And, whoever it is, guys, let's get behind them. Let's get excited because we need Vandal football to be back to where, back to what it was. So let's get it rolling again. Let's just give this person as much support as possible. Let's be jacked for whoever it is.
Yeah, I'm going to second that. Let's pretend we're batting 1,000, which in all likelihood we probably aren't. I feel good about the info I have, but there's every reason to believe that we're not batting 1,000. Even if we are batting 1,000, there's names we didn't talk about. So because we don't have them. So you're right. There's a lot of people could be. I'm pretty damn stoked for the announcement. I will say I expect there's no way this announcement comes later than December 17th. Pretty sure I wouldn't be floored if it comes before December 17th.
Says next Friday. So
yeah,
we're talking, if I do some math, 10 days.
Yeah, we're going to get some news. My understanding is no later than December 17th, and to not be shocked if we get news before. That's been Around the Bar, guys, brought to us by Hughes River Expedition. Sorry, Hughes River, for missing at the beginning. Please forgive us. Hughes River Expedition. If you're looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, don't look past your backyard. Venture into the largest protected wilderness in the continental United States, located right here in the great state of Idaho. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the Middle Fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River no return, the Salmon River Canyons with a Selway, and you can even check out special trips like the one to see the Perseid meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches, run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs, take in the history along the river, and fish on the most remote stretch of the country. You just bring your clothes, let HRE handle the rest. Hughes River Expeditions has been Vandal owned and operated since 1976 and ready to take you on a vacation of a lifetime. What are you waiting for? Find out what it's like to grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now at 800-262-1882 or check them out at hughesriver.com, which is Chris's jingle. What the hell is a ringle? Anyway, when Dallas is back on, we'll have the website up when we run this. But this was a deep dive, right, Alex? This counts as a deep dive?
I think it's a deep dive. Also, 4 p.m. Pacific tomorrow, ESPN2, UConn Huskies come to Morgantown, playing my Mountaineers. Catch that if you want to watch some quality basketball. I know that's tough to find on the Palouse.
And now it's time for Colby Cuff to play us out. Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
So raise your glass and have a drink with me. Here's to the Vandals in the crowd. All just out there living the dream. Got a one and only Moscow drinking